Many countries around the world have national cemeteries, somewhere people can go and pay tribute to the men and women who've made a mark on their nation's history. Here in Ottawa, Beechwood Cemetery is Canada's national cemetery. It's the final resting place of over 75,000 Canadians, including former prime ministers, soldiers, and members of the public who have helped shape our country. One of the oldest cemeteries in Canada, Beechwood Cemetery was inaugurated in 1873, 6 years after Ottawa became the capital of the Dominion of Canada. Spanning 160 acres of woodland, the cemetery was built among a picturesque landscape of lush trees and carefully cultivated lawns and gardens. Because of its location in Canada's capital, the cemetery became the final resting place for many prominent Canadians, even though it had yet to be recognized as the nation's official cemetery. Among those buried here are former Prime Minister Sir Robert Borden, the father of Medicare Tommy Douglas, famous poet Archibald Lampman, and Canadian inventor Sir Sanford Fleming.
From All Saints Anglican Church in Ottawa, the funeral cortege of the late Lieutenant General Kenneth Stewart, CB DSO MC, proceeds to Beechwood Cemetery. A battalion of the RCR forms the Guard of Honor.
Since as early as the Northwest Rebellion of 1885, men and women who were killed in the line of duty and war veterans have been laid to rest at Beechwood. By 1918, a military section had been established at the cemetery by the Soldiers' Aid Commission. On June 28, 2001, Beechwood was officially chosen to house Canada's National Military Cemetery for the Canadian Forces. Covering over 8 acres of land, this section of the cemetery is dedicated to honoring the memory of the men and women who have served our country. Every year on November 11th, a Remembrance Day ceremony is held in this section of the cemetery, and the grounds are adorned with dozens of poppy wreaths in honor of those who have served us. It's not just the military that has chosen Beechwood as its official cemetery. Dedicated in October 2004, the RCMP National Memorial Cemetery is the official resting place for retired and current members of the RCMP, civilian members, civil servants, special constables, and members of their families. In recognition of its 19th century rural cemetery design and deemed a place of national historical significance, in 2001, Beechwood Cemetery was declared a National Historic Site, one of the few Canadian cemeteries to receive this distinction. At the time of this milestone, Canada still didn't have an official cemetery. Many people around the country, including members of Parliament, felt a growing need for a national site of remembrance. All parties could agree on a few criteria. The chosen cemetery had to be located in Canada's capital and had to be fully bilingual. They also wanted an open and inclusive space, reflecting our country's diversity.
Leading
the charge was Liberal Maurice Bélanger. In 2007, he introduced a private member's bill to designate Beechwood Cemetery as Canada's national cemetery. Beechwood's location in the capital, its designation as a National Historic Site, as well as the creation of the military and RCMP cemeteries, made it an ideal choice. He received support from all sides of the House. Unfortunately, his bill died when the 2008 general election was called. To speed up the passage of the bill, MP Bélanger urged the Conservative government at the time to introduce the legislation as its own.
Order. Pursuant to order made earlier this day, Bill C-17, an act to recognize Beechwood Cemetery as the National Cemetery of Canada, is deemed read a second time.
On March 5, 2009, Bill C-17, an act to recognize Beechwood Cemetery as the National Cemetery of Canada, passed unanimously in the House of Commons. For the first time in history, Canada had an official resting place for its leaders and other noteworthy Canadians who contributed to the history and identity of the country. Today, Beechwood Cemetery retains much of its original character. Its storied pathways, picturesque grounds, and architectural splendor continue to be a focal point for thousands of visitors every year. Over time, Beechwood has come to reflect Canada's diversity, and has become a multi-ethnic, multi-faith cemetery. It includes special sections that were developed for various religious and ethnic communities.
Over the years, Beechwood Cemetery has become an important part of our national heritage, preserving Canada's history and identity. Today, it's a place where Canadians from all walks of life can gather and pay tribute to the lives of those who have helped shape our country.